2nd, 2020 to order. This is a Zoom meeting and is being recorded. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance, owing to the fact that Charlie is not going to be able to join us until a little bit later. I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public forum. Let me just make sure here. I might have a couple more in the. I do. A couple more in the waiting room. Okay, Sandy's in, and Jesse Williams from the Guilford Courier is joining us as well. Wonderful. All right, public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Moving on, item 3, that's to approve minutes. 3.1 would be the October 19th, 2020 regular meeting minutes. Did anyone have any comments, questions, suggested changes, etc.? I had none. Lou?
No, nothing.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
And one of those will be a second. Call the question. All in favor? Selectman Federici?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner? I can see your mouth moving. That was an aye. You're on mute.
Aye, sorry.
Don't worry. Selectwoman Ruah?
Aye.
And Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Motion carries. Item 4, Public Works. Tom Fillion is here to discuss a couple items. The first one is 4.1. Consider and take possible action to purchase salt from Morton Salt off the state contract, number 20 PSX 0085. Tom, you want to just go through this? I know you do this every year. Purchase of salt, but we want to give us a little thumbnail on this, please.
Yep. We'd like to go with Morton Salt because they were the lowest this year at $50 a ton. That's $12.50 a ton cheaper than last year's price from Driven Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's $50 a ton for 600 tons that we'll need this season, $30,000.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the contract to purchase Morton Salt off the state contract in the amount of 600 tons at $12.50 a ton?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any further comments or questions?
Nope.
Call the question. Those in favor, Selectman Federici?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner?
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruah?
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Tom, item number 2 would be consider take possible action on the purchase of an over-the-rail tractor boom assembly. I know you provided us with some documentation, but would you just talk to it a bit, please?
Yep. The original boom was damaged during the mowing season. Actually, the steel got torqued a little bit. And so we sent out for quotes on a repair, which was $28,792.46 to repair it. And a quote on a new boom, which was $21,806.86 from Batcher Corp, who is basically a sole source on this. The damage to the boom that was bent can't be straightened. And the attachment area where it attaches to the machine also weakened, and we needed some work on that. It only take probably a couple hours to put this boom back on once we have it. And and I'm also going to get these guys a little bit more training as far as how far they can go with this boom.
Excellent. Tom, thank you. You anticipated my question on, was this just a truly an accident, or is it an issue regarding the training or carelessness? So thank you for addressing it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the new boom for the over-the-rail tractor from Baker Corporation at $21,806.86. Is there a motion?
Sure.
So moved. So moved.
And a second?
One of us.
Call the question. Those in favor, Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Tom, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Got it. Item 5, consider and take possible action to recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission under mandatory referral the purchase of an approximately 21.72 acre parcel owned by the Hartford Roman Catholic Diocesan Corporation located at Route 80 and Long Hill Road, identified as Assessor's Map 101, Lot 18A. Just as a way of background, this is the piece of property that we had been negotiating on. We agreed to a price. This board approved that price. We have come to agreement on the terms on the contract. We used outside counsel Robert Leitchie, who we've been using on our land purchase agreements to negotiate with the diocesan legal team. Attorney Barrett has also reviewed and weighed in on this, and we have executed the agreement per the authority that you vested in me, I believe at our last 2 meetings ago. And now this is a mandatory referral to P&Z. We will still have to go to a town meeting for the purchase at some point, correct, Tracy?
Yeah.
Good. So is there a motion to recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission under mandatory referral the purchase of approximately 21.72 acre parcel owned by the Hartford Roman Catholic Diocesan Corporation located at Route 80 and Long Hill Road, identified as Assessor's Map 101, Lot 18A? Is there a
Yes.
motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Sue. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lou. Any comments or questions or concerns?
I think this, as we said earlier, I mean, I think this is a great opportunity and a great idea, and I'm glad we're moving it forward.
Great. You know, and again, just to reiterate for those who may be watching this, either, well, probably not currently, right, because we're not live streaming, but will watch it at their leisure. This property had been identified as a potential resource for municipal facilities, not the least of which is the Public Works facility. There's a domino effect in terms of some properties and some initiatives as laid out by the Facilities Task Force. And this is one of the first. This was the primary recommendation of the task force, which was to identify and procure a location to eventually move our Public Works facility. And this gives us clearly the opportunity to do that. By no means is it a foregone conclusion that we're going to be moving Public Works up there, because there is a process to that which we will be following over the course of the next 18 months. So with that, call the question. Selectman Federici.
We unmute? Aye.
So Selectwoman Renner.
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Thank you. Item 6, Fire Chief Charles Hershaft. Good morning, Charlie. 6.1 is to consider and take possible action to purchase the replacement for ambulance involved in an accident. Charlie, you want to just give us a little background here, please?
Yes, this ambulance was involved in a major accident at the intersection of Route 77 and Route 80. The ambulance was totaled. The insurance company's doing full replacement value at $220,419.90. We have a $500 deductible. We're recommending that we purchase the ambulance from this current vendor, Excellence, out of Alabama. In fact, we're going down today to pick up the new one.
Wow. Good. Excellent. Any questions or comments? Charlie, just one thing, for those who weren't familiar with, this was an accident up at Route 80 and 77. Is that the one?
That's the one.
And none of our personnel were seriously injured. Is that also correct?
Minor injuries.
Good. Yeah, minor injuries usually only happen to other people. They're major when they happen to yourself, right? Anyway, any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion to purchase the type 1 ambulance from Excellence in the amount of $220,419.90?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, call the question. Those in favor, Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Charlie, thank you very much and good luck with the new ambulance. And just as a side note, a $500 deductible to get it's our only out-of-pocket expense of getting a brand new ambulance. I think that bodes well. That speaks volumes about our insurance coverage requirement.
I'll stick that to his copy.
Okay, let me see. Do I have Sam here?
Yeah, he would have to document different if it was.
Yes, I do.
You do. I'm
I
here.
do. Excellent, excellent. Item 7, Safe Streets Task Force, Sam Garrett's 7.1. And this is consider and take possible action on the award of RFP number 2-2021. The hiring of a consultant to create Safe Streets Complete Streets Plan. Sam Garrett's the chair of the Safe Streets Task Force is joining us, and with support from Janice Plasiak, who's worked closely with the task force over the past months to move some items. And Sam, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to let everybody on the board of selectmen know that, we're an 11-person task force. We've been able to maintain momentum working virtually over the last 8 months. We've been in existence for about a year and a half. Interestingly enough, about half the group is focused on what we would call projects. The other half is focused on process, and that provides an interesting tension to the group. And the hiring of this consultant is actually the result of that tension, meaning that we needed some experts to come in and help us navigate some of the thorny issues that we are facing. So first of all, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen for adopting the Complete Seats resolution back in March. That was, I think, probably the last time you guys were in person. And that was a really big step that's helped us in interacting with other town commissions and boards. But our next big step is hiring this consultant to lead the town through a process of creating a comprehensive safe streets plan. So the Board of Selectmen set up this task force with a $350,000 budget. And I can tell you that early on in this process, I thought we didn't need a consultant, that we should spend all the money just on projects. But some more wise people on the task force and some more wise people in town have made it clear that, in terms of getting the town engaged and all that, it requires professionals who've done this multiple times. And so we wrote an RFP pretty carefully in terms of describing what we wanted. We posted it in July. We received 5 proposals in August. There are 5 of us who are kind of more focused on the process side of things who did all the evaluation. That was Helen Higgins, Bob Yarrow, Jim Bussman, Janice, and myself. And the bids were actually spread out pretty widely. I think our low bid was $70,000. Our high bid was $275,000. But in evaluating the proposals, we realized that the low bids pretty much missed the mark in terms of addressing what was important in our RFP, particularly the piece around public engagement, which I think, and I think most of you would agree, is really the crux of the issue in terms of getting a lot of these projects to achieve some momentum. So we narrowed the list to 3 proposals ranging in cost from $220,000 to $275,000. All of those seemed high to us. So before we embarked on interviewing with these different firms, we asked them all to produce a proposal that was $200,000. And so they all did that, and it actually turned out to be a really good way to focus our discussion because each of the firms cut in different ways. We also checked the references, and after all this process was over, we had a meeting where it turned out the entire group had reached consensus on hiring what's called the Schmidt Design Group. They're out of Milford, Connecticut. Some of you may know them because they designed the shower pad that's down on Jacobs Beach. I think I'm right about that. Is that true, Janice?
Yes. Mhm.
So they have some experience in Guilford, but the reason we picked them was that they really understood the public engagement piece. the reference I received from Stratford sounded like a situation very similar to Guilford, where these town meetings had a fair amount of heat attached to them. And the Schmidt Design Group did a really good job working with the town and achieving consensus there. They've worked with Stratford, New Haven, Greenwich, Stonington, Rocky Hill. So they understand, the issues facing towns like ours. I think we'll still surprise them with some of the things that we're dealing with, but we really like them. The other two firms are great, but they just came up short. I think we would have been happy with any of the three, but we're really happy to be working with the Schmidt Design Group. There's a number of issues around process, or a number of process items and deliverables. They were articulated in the quote that was put out. I guess what I would say is we were surprised when we were getting the bids that they came in high. They came in high, but we also realized that in terms of the tasks we were asking them to perform, in the case of the Schmidt Design Group, they've outlined 1,200 hours of work that they're going to do for the town. So that's divided into items such as performing, they're going to start off by performing a really detailed analysis of the town. That involves, doing a kickoff with the Safe Streets Task Force, taking a complete inventory, and generating GIS maps that can be useful both for the town and by the engineering department to just keep our eye on, where do we have sidewalks, where do we have the proper infrastructure, and where are the gaps. They're then going to come up with a vision and guiding principles, again, working with the town and the task force. And then the most important part is conducting public outreach via some virtual public meetings. And there are going to be 4 of those. They've also designed an education module that they'd like to roll out to GPS, which will teach, school children about, pedestrian and cyclist safety. And, if we're back in person, we could do something like a bike rodeo or a bike to school day, that kind of thing. But, the current situation may not allow that, at least until the spring. After all that is done, there's going to be putting forward a complete plan, and that's going to be what's coming forward to the town with, prioritized list of projects, an updated transportation plan, and, really consensus both at the town level, hopefully at the task force level and the town officials level. But that's really where all the inventory, the visioning, and the public outreach all come together. And that was really important in the RFP. That was the part we were focused on, is we want to make sure that the town has a really strong voice in this process so that there are no surprises as we get further down the road. And then finally, there's an interesting item that we put in, and they had some good ideas at the Schmidt Design Group of, they're going to research 4 similar communities to ours with respect to issues such as hazard reporting. If you see a broken sidewalk or something like that, how do you communicate that? Or if you need shrubs cut back along a road, how do you do that efficiently? Maintenance recommendations, that's something that's being updated in the town ordinance anyway. Things like signage, traffic enforcement, and noise control. So they're going to go out and talk to similar communities and come back with a recommendation that the town can do with what they would like. So that was their $200,000 deliverable, or their $200,000 budget. We're asking for $210,000 right out of the gate, because there was an option for doing a deeper analysis of the existing inventory, providing this GIS report, and really mapping the town very carefully. Also ADA, the ADA compliance for a lot of our crosswalks and sidewalks will be mapped. And so what we would like to do is start out at $210,000. Then there's some options for doing what are called quick builds. We're going to get 4 out of the gate, but if we want to add more, they're $5,000 each. And it really comes down to the analysis. A quick build is saying, here's a spot where we'd like to do something different, rather than invest all the money in a full-blown project. What happens if we mock it up and people in the town can react to it? This seems to be, a fairly standard method of trying out new approaches to, crosswalks, pedestrian safety, traffic calming, all that. So if we find that we need more than 4 quick builds, we would like the option to be able to order, 1 or 2 more at $5,000 each. If we have 4 community workshops planned, if those aren't enough, we could get more than that for $2,000 each. And then their prototype designs that they're going to be producing. We're going to get 4 of those. If we want more, they're $2,000 each. But Schmidt Design Group has been really clear. We can make that decision as we're deeper into the process. So it really comes down to, how many projects do we see that look like they need that kind of support? We would want to work closely with Janice on those issues. But this is part of what we liked about Schmidt Design Group is they built a lot of flexibility into the process. So as we get further into it, we'll understand, do we need an extra meeting? You know, is there a topic that needs a second discussion? So again, what the task force would like to do is immediately, you know, sign the contract with Schmidt Design Group to spend $210,000, but then reserve the option to spend up to $20,000 on those remaining items. Are there any questions?
If you don't mind, I'd like to just add for the benefit of supplementing Sam's great presentation of the process and the hiring of this consultant, is that this work is going to be invaluable to getting really, like Sam said, the public engagement process involved in the planning of where we want to prioritize pedestrian improvements in town. And as the official kind of in charge of that with the sidewalk budget and the need to make repairs, that's going to be invaluable. Because as you know, in years past, we've had grant monies that we had to ultimately turn away because we couldn't get the consensus of the community on those projects. And this will hopefully set us up for more successful projects in the future, as well as have us with a clear plan that has community support for us to apply for future grants. And as well, I'd like to also talk to the ADA compliance portion of the project, which is a requirement by the federal government that we have an ADA transition plan. So that this consultant is going to help us meet that requirement, which will identify our deficiencies on ADA compliance with regard to our sidewalks, not only on town roads, but also on state roads, which we are responsible for ultimately via the state's policy of transferring liability and maintenance of sidewalks on state highways to the local municipalities. So all this work is going to be invaluable, I feel, and it's going to be an update to the transportation plan, which was completed in 2003 and which is in need of an update. So working with Sam and his group, it's been very eye-opening for the past year and a half, but I believe they do need this assistance for the public outreach and for putting all the pieces together to a plan that'll work and come up with projects that, while they might be good ideas from, a task force member idea or a community member idea, they may not be feasible for a number of reasons. And having the planner as well as their engineering team work on some of these concepts and ideas to really flush out feasible projects for the town moving forward for the next probably decade or two is going to be invaluable to the town.
Thank you, Janice. I just also want to add that we had always contemplated the possibility of using a consultant. I think when we allocated the $350,000, we knew this was a tall task to get to a complete plan. And the task force is going to have the opportunity to avail themselves to those funds for either a facilitator or a consultant. And I applaud the task force for getting to a point where you realize that you had reached the capacity and your capacity to move this forward without this kind of assistance and this kind of expertise. So thank you there. And let's not also forget that the community engagement piece, as Janice just mentioned and Sam talked a little bit about, is critical to the success of this project, to this task force, and anything we're going to do related to it. Janice is absolutely right. The Nut Plains pathway issue was a complete disaster. I'm just in terms of the way the community involvement, community engagement, and then the fact that we were pitting neighborhoods against neighborhoods, and we weren't effectively managing that process. So this, I think, gives us the opportunity to get community consensus and to do it that way. I had a couple of questions for Sam in terms of the outcomes. Obviously, the plan itself will detail things we should be doing. Will there be some level of prioritization in the final report, or is that something that the task force would wind up looking at in terms of trying to determine, working with the Board of Selectmen as to what we proceed with and in what order?
Well, obviously the goal would be to have something like that. In talking to Tom Tavella, who's going to be leading the Schmidt Design Group on this, he said he had some ideas on how to help us through that process. There are a lot of variables involved. And so what I would say is that this is just a conversation that we will be having as we go through the process. I mean, one could imagine that there's a scenario where we can see some quick wins, or we could see some projects that are going to take a decade, and it's going to be hard to compare those two. But what we would be able to do is within, say, a set of projects, like the long range projects or the short term projects, we'd be able to come up with a priority list so that as Janice has funds that come available, if there's a grant that comes available, or if we have some funds available, we would know which one to go to next.
Excellent. And my next question is going to be the demonstration or the quick wins or quick wins. And you still, even after the potential expenditure of 230,000, you still have 120,000. And does that give us the opportunity for some some effective and realistic demonstration projects or quick wins?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I'm still not, I'm not an expert on all the costs in these projects, but I think there's some short-term things that we've already identified. One of the things we want to be careful about doing is, as I mentioned, about half the team on the task force has a lot of project ideas in mind. What we'd really like to do is have all of them handed off to the consultants so that they can be evaluated in the same context as the community's ideas.
Right.
So I don't think we're going to be able to build 20 miles of sidewalks with the remaining money, but we may be able to put in place 400 feet.
Right.
And it may be that those 400 feet come in really handy.
Excellent. You mentioned briefly the opportunity to get grant money. Janice, the ADA plan, does that will be an outcome of this? Does that satisfy some of the grant requirements or applications?
Well, since it's a federal mandate to have the ADA transition plan, I haven't seen specifically where it's a prerequisite for any grants, but I can imagine that going forward in the future, it could be an add to a prerequisite, or certainly it shows a commitment of the community and can be referenced in a grant application that we are, aware of what our needs are specifically and trying to achieve those goals. So maybe not specifically right now, but I definitely see it as a plus to any grant applications and maybe a future requirement.
Great, thank you. All right, I've monopolized the questions. Anybody else? Sue?
I have some comments to make. I fully appreciate the idea that an all-volunteer task force would like to engage a consultant to provide some direction. But I, exactly as Sam said, thought that we had a $350,000 amount set aside for projects. And going from 0 to 210,000 on the consultant seems like a lot to me. I wonder, did you consider something in between? I mean, in a sense, I feel like there's a little bit of, I guess the expression is putting the cart before the horse, in that if we haven't done any public engagement, we don't have any, and don't really have any idea what the public does want. Maybe the public doesn't want to spend $200,000 on a consultant. So would there be a way to do an in-between option to get things started and to see where this should go?
Well, that was kind of the challenge we faced when we were writing the RFP, where, the first thing we need to know is what do we have, right? And it's going to take all these firms a fair amount of time. I mean, that was a fairly big part of their initial bid, is just the inventory of what we have and, mapping all that out. I guess, if you look at what piece one could take out, it would be the adoption and implementation part, but that's actually one of the most important deliverables of the plan. That's the updated transportation plan, which is 17 years old, and the prioritized projects. And so I take your point, Sue, but the problem was that when we were looking at this whole process, everything was so intertwined. And this is also the same thing we've been struggling with at the task force. I mean, it took us 6 months to realize that we had two completely different groups of people on the task force. One group was really concerned about process. right? And that's the engagement piece here. But then the other half was really concerned about all the projects. And you know, we got a lot of issues in town with respect to either sidewalks that don't connect, dangerous intersections, you know, the accident data is a little bit terrifying in some parts of town. And so, you know, if you take one piece out, I think the problem is you lose the continuity of the whole.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess I should also just say is we got some bids that were down in a much lower range than these top three firms, but they also weren't going to deliver what we needed. And I think that was really the eye-opening piece to me when I saw the three bids, that they looked really expensive to me, but then I realized, oh, they're expensive because they're going to do all the things we asked them to do.
And
I would just make a quick comment in terms of the community and what they want. Let's not forget that I think we were maybe 2 months into the term as a board, and we received 5 separate petitions for sidewalks in certain areas in the community. So that's nearly 3 years ago. And again, shame on me for not having gotten this to this point sooner. But nonetheless, I think it's not unusual for the Selectmen's office to get complaints about certain traffic areas or certain pedestrian areas. And again, I want to go back to, there's still some underlying tension with the whole Nut Plains pathway thing. There are still folks who are looking for some kind of solution in that area as well. So I still think I agree there is a need, but I understand your concern completely. Going from 0 to 210 is a lot. I quite honestly didn't think it was going to be 200, 210. I was figuring 100 to 150,000 for a reasonable consultant to implement a plan like this. I've had the opportunity to look at some of the other complete streets plans that have been put together for communities not unlike us, including Madison, and then several up in the greater Boston metropolitan area. And this seems to be completely in line with some of those other studies and plans.
Did Madison use a consultant?
Madison used a consultant at the end of their process.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what their price tag was?
I was not able to get that out of the.
I'd just like to speak to the fact that, the task force has been, working together for about, I think, 18 months, as Sam said, and myself, town planner, police department or police commission members have been present at most of their meetings. And I think they've exhausted their ability to really move some of these concepts or ideas that they have forward, because they don't have the level of understanding of how these things actually work. They're trying to learn all this, but they're not experts in the field. There's been honestly a little frustration sometimes from some of us staff people that there's a lack of understanding of all the different oversight that various commissions and boards have for certain aspects of the work that the task force is trying to achieve. The police commission has a responsibility for traffic. The Planning and Zoning Commission has some authorities with regard to requiring sidewalks as inclusion for site plans and trying to organize that. My department with regard to the road ordinance and oversight of sidewalks. So there is a complex various powers and duties throughout the town that have to kind of come together to embrace this complete streets concept and actually implement it. And that's where I think the challenge of a task force without that expertise being able to do it, in addition to the public outreach, the consultant will be able to identify those kind of conflict points within our own regulations and authorities, as well as bring it all together in a plan that moves forward. It's a little more complicated than just coming up with projects and say, let's implement them, and does the community want them? Because there are various state, federal regulations and authorities that may have to be, overcome in order to even try and implement such a project. So it's a little more complicated than just a task force coming up with a list of projects, because trust me, they have a list of projects, some of which, I don't feel are feasible, but, they're well-intentioned, but there are a lot innumerable, challenges to implementation that may or may not make them come to fruition. And therefore, I think the assistance of professionals in this field, can help greatly, whereas it's a little beyond the, say, ability of my department to be able to spend the amount of time that's needed to really do all this work. Same with probably the police commission and the police department and planning and zoning. And some of it too is going to be a coordination of all our regulations and ordinances to try and make sure everything is kind of working harmoniously together towards the ends of the goals of this complete streets concept.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what everyone's describing is a process that honestly sounds overwhelmingly complicated with all sorts of implications. And it's just such a far cry from where we were 3 years ago when we had, some people who wanted sidewalks and some people who didn't want sidewalks. And I don't know, do we know this is even where the town wants to go before we sink 210,000 into it that we could spend on a lot of other things?
Fair point.
But before, well, I guess one thing at a time, because I think my questions overlap a little bit, but let me hear the answer and I'll try not to ask the same question.
Well, one thing I'd like to just say is that this isn't just about sidewalks either. This is about a complete streets concept, which includes safety. And it also includes, our approach to how we design roads and build roads in the future so that we know that we're at least meeting the needs of the community. It may not include sidewalks. It may include, fog lanes. It may include off-road, better developed off-road trails that provide, important pedestrian links to different areas, as well as our transportation update is important to know where future road connections may be needed and all that. So it's not entirely just about sidewalks. It's really, traffic calming, things that we can add in. And, everyone I think would agree that, our town center is beautiful, but has its challenges with regard to traffic circulation as well as pedestrian safety and circulation. So, those are things that we can be really looking at deeply, just beyond, where do we want sidewalks? It's more than that in this plan.
Right. And I would just say that, I've interacted in different town meetings advocating for projects that have been proposed. I mean, there's the affordable housing project that's going up off of State Street, the new development off of Long Hill, Guilford, Texaco. And the pushback that I always get from the boards and commissions is, where's the comprehensive plan? And I think that's a fair criticism. I can also say that in order to get a comprehensive plan, we have to do this process because, again, the old transportation plan is 17 years old. And, I've been to them. I was at every one of these meetings where things went off the rails. And I think what the town really needs to do is take a step back and not look at all these projects in one at a time and thinking about how does this affect me, because that's the way those meetings go, but more, what are the needs of the town? Because if there are communities that say, hey, we're a mile and a half from the town center and we have no safe way to get there, either by bike or by foot, we should listen, right? And maybe the people who live on the abutting properties in between those might hear that differently if they get to hear the perspective of someone from the town, not telling them this is what we're going to do, but that this is what the need is. And I can just say that with a full-time job and a task force that is very passionate, but also volunteer, we don't have the capacity to pull off this kind of mission. And that's where I feel these consultants, and especially the leader of the Schmidt Design Group, seems to be really skilled at leading towns through these conversations. And that, that led to why we picked them.
So if I can jump in, thanks. I'm trying not to repeat exactly what Sue said, but I had similar concerns. And for starters, let me just say, this is important work. Sam, we appreciate everything you and the group are doing. And it is easy to say and much more difficult to corral competing stakeholders in a circumstance like this. So the idea of a consultant, I think, is on the right path. The question is this, what are we getting for the 200,000? And that goes to my point. So not to exactly repeat Sue's questions, I'm looking, for instance, both at your timeline, which is helpful, And then I'm going to scroll back to the actual quotes. I mean, it just seems to me that the public outreach piece for the 4 quick builds at 339 hours seems like a ton of time. And I'm not sure what we're getting for that. And then the adoption and implementation, another 475 hours. That's a lot of projects, or a lot of project time. And for that 130 some odd $1,000, I imagine what we're getting is they're going to be standing in the community center with you as somebody bangs a gavel and we have a successful project, or apparently 4 projects. And there's not going to be any additional charge beyond that, because there obviously are optional services. I mean, that's a lot of time to get 4 projects done, it seems to me. And I'm not looking to have you tell us right now which 4 projects, because I sort of get it, that the idea is to have them help us figure out which 4 projects. But how confident are they that they're going to be able to sort of identify things that are doable and then do them? I guess there's my question.
Well, I would just say that it's not just limited to 4 projects. That's 4 projects that we're actually going to have a more detailed design to actually implement right away. So it's, so that's a little more in-depth of a design effort for those 4 projects. We're still going to have projects that develop out of the whole planning study based on, where we want sidewalks, where we want trails, where we want traffic calming. And those too may be specific projects. They're just not going to be brought to a level of implementation by this group, but there will be something that we can utilize, as I said before, to either fund ourselves or go out for grant funding, or include in a project we already have. Like say we're, rebuilding a street, then we would add in that aspect that came out of this plan into that project. So I don't want the thought that there's only 4 projects coming out of this entire study.
That's not my focus. My focus, and thanks for that. And I get that. I understand that their scope is bigger, and that helps for you to explain that and clarify that. I get that though. My question is, for 339 hours and another 475 hours, what 2 things out of that? One, that's a lot of time to zero in on a successful outcome. And 2, for that amount of time, I'm going to be not particularly interested in additional consulting time, because there was a town meeting and we had to spend these guys, if they're doing what they say they're doing, part of the process is persuading the community and the different stakeholders, I'll use the word again, that the idea is a good one, and we're going to get it home. And then there'll be additional, I hear what you're saying, Janice, additional sort of analysis of different projects that we can sort of maybe use this template to sort of successfully implement over time. I get it. But to me, the first 4 for this kind of time and money better be in the tank.
I'm not sure what you mean by in the tank.
Done, finished, completed. I don't want to hear 18 months from now that they need another $10,000 to attend a community meeting, in addition to 475 hours of adoption and implementation.
Okay, fair point.
That's a lot of time. I'm trying to remember the last time I spent 47 hours on a project, let alone 10 times that.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to defer to the experts in the group, having come from I'm a research scientist.
Yeah.
I will tell you that the other 3 firms the 3 firms that were all in the running had very similar timelines on there. I mean, my understanding of all the things that they're going to do. I mean, building the project website, for example, is going to take some time and energy, and it's something that we wish we'd had a long time ago, but we just don't have the expertise on the committee to put that together. I guess what my read on this is that, yes, we're only getting 4 quick builds, and there's options to add more to it, but we're going to have a list of 20 projects.
Yeah.
defined and well described that will then be the fodder for Janice to work on for the next 15 or 20 years. Which is
And that part I get, and that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
again, my point is that the incremental expenses for this kind of money should be close to nil for the initial.
I mean, I'm fine with removing the incremental expenses. I'll come back to the Board of Selectmen if we need to do something with any of these additional.
Well, I'm not saying take them off, but I guess what I want to understand is if they're proposing in their quote for 4 quick builds, and I hear everything you're saying, that should be inclusive of the top line cost summary and not, oh, by the way, we need some more time to get to a town meeting and help you get this thing home. For those 4, I'm expecting that that's included.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I just did a little back of the napkin evaluation. That looks like an awful lot of hours on there, right? Between the 261, 339, 475. But if my math is correct, that's about 28 weeks worth of work. And what this project is, what, 7 month timeline? I think that puts us clearly in there. So to assume that you'd have a single resource, working, obviously there are going to be multiple resources from this firm working on it. But clearly that's engaging one individual for about seven months. So I think the hours seem to line up relatively close to what the timeline on the project. And I think you can rest assured that there are going to be weeks where they do less than 40 hours a week in terms of this project, and weeks where they're going to do significantly more than 40 hours a week, including holding those community events as well. So.
Yeah, in terms of, my experience with other similar type projects, and we're currently kicked off the Route 146 corridor study, which is being managed by the South Central Regional Council of Governments. I mean, the amount of hours and the cost of this seems in line with what the deliverable we're going to get. I don't know exactly what the cost of the corridor study is, but just to study one road, which is Route 146, it's in the order of magnitude of this one study's cost. So it seems reasonable. And I had done a study in Brantford for an interchange study, and that was in the order of about $150,000. So there is a lot of data gathering. There's a lot of man hours associated with that. And I think you'll be surprised too, the public outreach portion isn't just the time you see them actually engaging the public. There's preparation of that is allocated to those man hours, creating PowerPoints, setting up different online platforms that they've utilized for purposes of public engagement beyond just the meeting presentation that this firm is offering to us as a community, especially during these, challenging times where we can't all get in a room together and kind of roll up our sleeves. So the public outreach is beyond just the time spent in front of a Zoom or meeting or something like that. It's going to be a little more intensive than just that time you see.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I actually support this use of these funds. Sure, we'd all love to see a bunch of things happen quickly, but besides the Nut Plains pain that we went through on either side of that issue, we all remember the public reaction, pro and con, to the possible extension of a sidewalk path trail in Guilford going down towards Madison. And I just want to comment, somebody said they're not sure if the public really views this as an important thing in the town. And I think people do. And as Janice and Sam point out, there's a million opinions on it and a million perceptions of what we want in sidewalks or safe streets or off trails, or, there's so many concepts to this that I think that even though it's probably a wonderful task force, they do need the expertise of a group like Schmidt to just go forward, because they've been meeting for a year and a half. And anyway, and I do remember, I thought at the discussion of the allocation of that original 300 plus, that it could include consultant expenses. So I just want to say that I'm in support of this. I realize $210,000 is not a small sum, but I think it's well worth it.
Thank you, Sandy.
Anything further?
Matt, I just joined. I apologize for being late. I just got here, so I don't know what all the discussion was, but I certainly, especially after the struggles of the last opportunity we had with building sidewalks on Boston Street, and I strongly support not only hiring a consultant, but get the information and sort it all out with the public and everything ahead of time and everything, because what happened last time with the Boston Street thing, I just was very disappointed about.
Yeah, you still have the scars to prove it, right?
Yes, exactly. And anything we can do to avoid that, and it really becomes an informational thing. I strongly support, so.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Anybody else? Any other comments? Now, Sam, thank you very much for your excellent presentation, but more importantly, thank you for the work you're doing on behalf of our community and all of us individually. So we greatly appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve the awarding of the RFP number 2-2021, the consultant to create a Safe Streets Complete Task Force to the Schmidt Design Group in the amount of $210,000?
I'll move it if nobody.
A second?
No, I'll second it. I mean, I think this is important work. I just want to make sure we're getting what we're paying for.
Right. I have no doubt that no lack of confidence in Sam and some of the other members of that task force, including some whose CVs are pretty impressive, and as well as Janice, that they will manage this process effectively and give us the best outcome we can get. So
I
with
agree.
that, I'm going to call the question. Those in favor: Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner.
No, I'm sorry. I can't, I support what you're doing, but no, I
Okay.
can't vote for it.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Again, Sam, thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8, appointments and resignations. 8.1, act on a recommendation to reappoint Raymond Bauer to the pension committee for a term to expire November 30th, 2023. Is there a motion to do so? Someone?
So moved?
Second.
Second. Call the question. All in favor, Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Item 8.2, act on a recommendation to reappoint Jeff Hedberg to the Standing Building Committee for a term to expire June 17th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Call the question. All in favor, Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. 8.3 is act on a recommendation to reappoint Francesco DeAndrea to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire February 28th, 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second. And a second. Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Thank you. That motion carries. Act on a recommendation to reappoint Edwin Lombard to the Shellfish Commission for a term to expire February 28th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
And a
Second.
second. Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. 8.5, act on a recommendation to appoint Michael Bohan as an alternate to the Shellfish Commission for a term to expire February 28, 2024. Is there a motion? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Sure,
Second.
Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haberda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
and Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. 8.6, act on a recommendation to appoint Edward Balvera to the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission for a term to expire September 30th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Good. Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haberda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. I would ask, I'm going to make a motion that we add 2 additional items under appointments and resignations. You should have received, I think, an update for, would be an 8.7 and an 8.8 for Patrick Thomas Paoletti. The first 8.7 would be an alternate seat on the Youth and Family Services Board. The 8.8 would be a regular seat on the Building Code Board of Appeals. Is there a motion to add those 2 items?
So moved.
And a
Second.
And a second. Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haberda,
Aye.
Woman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is an aye. Now, as to the questions of 8.7, that is Patrick Thomas Paoletti, alternate seat on the Youth and Family Services Board, filling a term ending 9/30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
Yeah, make the motion.
And a second?
Second.
Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haberda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. 8.8, and that is for Patrick Thomas Paoletti, a regular seat on the Building Code Board of Appeals. Lou, you want to make that one? Wasn't that one of your boards?
No, I was on the zoning board of appeals, but I'm happy to make the motion nonetheless. I mean, here's a guy who's willing to work on two boards, so.
I'll
Amendment.
second.
And a
I'll
second. Good.
second. Yeah.
Thank you. Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haberda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, act on request from Parks and Recreation to use the green for its magical Wonderland holiday displays. Is Rick here by any chance? No? This is an annual.
Rick's on vacation,
Gotcha.
visiting a newborn granddaughter.
For what it's worth, by the way, Tracy, the form that I have on Board Pack is just a blank application.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing
Send
there.
that around separately?
There's a
Yeah.
flyer.
I'll email it out to you. I don't know what happened.
Hmm.
Are there any big changes from previous years or anything, or?
This is the first year they're doing it. It's gonna be similar to the scarecrows they have on the green, only it's gonna be a holiday display. People are, they want businesses.
I thought this was the
Right.
winter thing. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's gonna be.
I mean,
it's
is there
new.
any reason why we, have to do it today, or should we see what the application is all
I think
about?
I think Ellen just wanted to start getting out, because it's getting close, getting the information out to the businesses.
Should we
that's
do
why
it today or wait until we see what's going on?
Yeah, you
I
may
mean-
want to refresh because I see it on my board pack.
I have it. I have it also.
You have it, it's still in?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back out to, out of the meeting and then back into it. You probably should see it.
Okay.
It sounds to me that this is something that they're coming up in lieu of the current situation of how
Right.
we can celebrate or mark the occasion of certain events in a COVID life. So,
Agreed. And to that point, Sandy, we have canceled the tree lighting. The Shoreline Chamber of Commerce and the town have agreed we're going to cancel the tree lighting. We will still light the tree at some point. We're just not going to do the big event. I think the Interact Club is still intending to do the luminaries on the green on that
Yes.
Friday.
yeah, the actual spin-off, the Youth Advisory Group of Interact, yes, and they're going to do it on the Friday that would have been the tree lighting.
Right, and it's my understanding that the Guilford Garden Club is going to continue to do the wreath the wreath displays on Broad Street. So there'll be some of those traditions will continue to go forward. And looks as if Park and Rec is trying to replace some of the activity. Mike,
I don't have any, I went in and out, I didn't get anything, but
Yeah.
I'll move it. If everybody's seen it, I don't have any problem. And I think, encouraged it.
I just emailed it to you all.
Thanks,
well.
Tracy.
Then I'd like to just ask, how long would the display be up?
It says December 4th to January 2nd. And it looks like there's a map and it looks like it's just on one side of the green.
And I just got the email. Let me take a look. Is this something the Green Committee would have an opinion on or no? Seems like we should ask that they should weigh in first.
yeah, so you raise a good point. This is a new use, a new program. If we can get the Green Committee to review it and act on it on our next meeting on the 16th, I don't, quite honestly, I don't see a significant issue with this, particularly given the times we're in, with so much having been taken away from this community. For us to have an opportunity to do something to celebrate the holidays.
How about if I move it based on Green Committee approval and that type of thing, just to move it along, or we could wait till the
I like
16th.
that, Charles. I like that.
I was going to say that too,
Based
with
on the
provisional approval based on Green Committee also. Yeah.
I have no problem with that. Is that all right, Susan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So that's Charlie's motion.
That's a motion, yeah.
Sue second, right? Good. Okay. Good compromise. Thank you. Call the questions. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 10, correspondence. Anybody have anything under correspondence that they want to share or need to share? I had none. Well, I could be sharing some of the correspondence. You wouldn't like a lot of them from the public, but some of them you would, actually. Committee reports. At this point, Sandy, anything on the housing? Any updates?
Yes, I have a little bit. Our committee met virtually last week and we had a representative from NeighborWorks on the line with us. And his first name is Andrew and at this moment, Martelli, I think. He gave us some provisional good news in that our project is being viewed very favorably in the Hartford, I don't want to say circles, but in the steps that it takes to get funding from the state and the federal government. And there's a point system on eligibility of getting funding. And we fit a lot of slots in the kinds of things that the state and the federal government is looking for. So, it's a slow process, but NeighborWorks did or is in the process of completing the official subdivision of the town property to delineate Guilford Center for Children and the area that the town is still going to be in charge of, which is the area that was the former dump, or there's another better word, but that's the best I can think of right now. And then the part that's going to be the part for the actual affordable housing build. And Public Works was able to brush hog the area so that the surveyors from NeighborWorks could get in and do this job. And they NeighborWorks is very complimentary of the town's Public Works work on this project. And they were a little behind because of the 2 storms that we had in August. But anyway, they did it and it's good and things are progressing. I always say glacially, but at least it was an encouraging meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandy. Lou, anything further on the fees since we have the document and we have I think we have the meeting set to change the ordinance. If I'm not,
I think there's a town meeting scheduled for that, right?
Yeah, yes. Are there any other things? I know that at one point you were working with the fire department on fees for them. Is that the only outstanding piece at this point?
I believe that is a yes.
Okay. And at some point, we'll circle back with them and complete that piece, right?
Right, exactly.
Good, thank you. Old business. Trace, just a quick question. In my packet, the town meeting for November 16th is all set at 8:15 a.m.
Yes.
We're all set with that. We don't have to do anything on that at this point.
Nope, you did the mandatory referral, so that'll go to
Referral.
P&Z on Wednesday. So we're all set for the next, for the town meeting on the 16th.
Okay, just want to remind the board members that it'll be at 8:15 prior to our regular Board of Selectmen meeting, so. New business, anybody have anything on the new business? No, we're going to be going into executive session to discuss a contract, but we'll hold public forum at this point if there's anyone wishing to address the board in public forum. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session, inviting in Mitch Goldblatt, Chief Hyatt, Chairman Welsh from the Police Commission. And I think that's all we need at this point, if I'm not mistaken. Is there a motion?
So
So
moved.
Into
Not a
executive.
second, Sandy, not a second. Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is an aye. Thank you all. And Trace?
There it is.
Yes, okay. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
In a second?
I'll second that.
Call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. During executive session, we had discussion. There were no motions made, no actions taken. However, coming out of executive session, I'd like to make the motion that we approve, as negotiated by the Police Commission and with the assistance of counsel, the employment contract of Christopher Massey as Deputy Chief of Police of the town of Guilford. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? I will have one comment just for the record. We're thrilled that we had a resource within our organization who was capable of stepping up and filling this very important position here as Deputy Chief of Police. And I want to thank the commission for all their work. So Chairman Welsh, please extend my thanks to the rest of the commission.
Will do, thank you.
With that, call the question. I need a second on the motion, right?
I seconded it.
Charlie seconded it.
Thank you, Carl. You got it. Good. All right, call the question. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
Selectman Haverda,
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second. Voice
Thank
vote on
you.
this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Hey,
Bob,
Bob,
see you
Bob
then.
Welsh,
Yes.
you're gonna stop by my office for copies? You want to do that?
Yes, I'll stop by in a little while. I'll stop by, whatever works for you.
Anytime. I can print them right now.
All right, I'll stop by,